I'm Rick Diamond, pastor of Journey Imperfect Faith Community. I'm welcoming you to this gathering of Journey. It's August 23rd, 2020. Today we're talking about lighthouse keeping and a group of people who I'm calling today lighthouse keepers. We're going to look at what Paul in the Christian scriptures calls the body of Christ. We're going to talk about what it means to be part of something larger than ourselves, which we as journeyers are. If this is new for you, this kind of gathering, this is where we will be meeting, hopefully before too long, our renovated living room. Can't wait to be together. If you're new, this is where we usually meet. It looks a little different, or has in the past. Can't wait to get to know you if you're new. Can't wait to see you if you're a journeyer that's been here a month, a year, a decade. Cannot wait to see you again when it's time and when it's safe. In the meantime, we are gathering in this virtual gathering, and I want to tell you that this is a safe space in the midst of pandemics and presidential and other elections and Black Lives Matter and all kinds of difficult things, recessions, people losing their jobs and their homes, loved ones, hope. This is a safe place for you regardless of what your political beliefs are. This is a safe place for you regardless of what your religious beliefs are, or none. Whatever your gender, sexuality, whether those things are important to you or not important to you, whatever your church story or none. It doesn't matter. This is a faith community in which all are different but connected parts, as you'll see Paul says about a body. And we're a body. And its parts change and evolve and grow. It's good. That means it's alive. Also, we're having a summer fundraiser. It's about to be over next Sunday, the 30th. And we have a goal. You saw the heart-rending, deeply feeling fundraiser video. There's a place to click to donate. It's also on our newsletter. It's also on our website. On top of that, please also continue your regular giving. We feel good about what we do with money. We give 10% away off the top. We don't use it for journey expenses. We give it to people in need and to causes that we believe in. You are welcome here in this place. We're going to breathe into being part of something larger than ourselves. How's that? So, take a breath. Thank you, God, that it's not just up to each of us, and thank you, God, that we're part of something bigger than just ourselves, and thank you, God, that we belong to you, even though that's hard to imagine, and we don't understand how it works. Thank you, God, for being with us. Bless people who need your blessing in Journey and outside it, and help us to be part of how you do that. Give us the gifts we need to share. Amen. Now, before we go any further, I want to have you go and get food and drink, because later in this hour we're going to take communion. Oh, but I don't have grape juice or wine, and I don't have flatbread that's prepared in a kosher Jewish way. Well, let me show you what I have. And then that will inspire you to go get what you need. Hold on. I got it while I was on the way here at the convenience store. I'm going to be and by the way, here at Journey, we have taken communion with every conceivable kind of food. Fruit, nuts, honey, pita, flatbread, hot dog buns, grilled fish, you name it. We understand Jesus as saying, this is a supper in which all are welcome. And so I grabbed some Gardetto's crisps, which are yummy, and I just like Cheez-Its. I'm not really sure that I got these for communion. I just like Cheez-Its. And I got some tortillas, because they look, flat, like flatbread or whatever, which seems communion-y. And I didn't have any grape juice, but I really like Diet Snapple, peach Snapple. So I got that. And so I'm gonna go get a couple of cups and a plate to put these on. And while I'm doing that, will you go to your kitchen, your pantry, your whatever, and get something to eat and something to drink, and we'll do that later? Just see you in a second. Go get yours. I'm getting mine. You got it? Did you find anything? Now, because it's pretty, sorry, I'm going to use our communion dishes, but a paper plate is fine, or a paper towel, or a dinner plate, or a bowl, cereal bowl, and we'll talk about why that is in a little bit. So, go get your stuff if you haven't already. Just keep it with you. Welcome to this gathering. Hi everybody, it's Rick, and I'm here with Dan and Diana Dworin, who are journeyers for, we were just talking about this, 5 or 6 or 7 years, something like that. And Diana is an ordained minister at Journey and through Journey, and these two people are really special to me and to our faith community. And I have asked them today to talk about what Journey means to them, what its mission means to them, and why in the hell they keep showing up. So, y'all ready to go? I'm ready.
All right. Dan?
You.
Me?
Yep.
How about you?
How about you?
Okay, I guess I'll go. So, I never intended to be here at Journey. This was never a part of my plan necessarily. But we had come to a place in my family's faith journey together where we were looking for something a little different, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we'd spent a lot of time at a very fine church, a bunch of great people, but there just kind of came a time where I don't know, I sort of felt like maybe I wanted to be part of a community that maybe wasn't quite so traditional or based on tradition, where there's families that have been going to a church for generations and all that, which is great, unless you're not one of those families. And then sometimes it can feel a little like a club that you'll never truly be a member of. But that's all probably just all in my head. But the bottom line is I at least wanted to maybe explore a little bit. And boy, hell, did we.
Yeah, we did. Well, but I think one of the things that Dan and I found is that there's some things that that you'll never, maybe as a couple or as a family, be completely in lockstep on. You're always going to have some different ways that you're growing in one direction, another person growing in this direction, and how does that all come together? And I think what Journey has given to you and I and our family is a lot of open space where we can individually and collectively as a family live in the questions of this faith experience and this life that we're in, instead of having these preset answers to things. We're able to use a lot of our creativity and I guess curiosity to see where life comes together for us and in community with others. And that's not to, I really honestly am not at all being critical of the faith tradition that we come from. We're from, I guess, the Lutheran tradition, would you say? In some ways I am. At least Dan is a little bit of, well, how would you describe your background?
Well, when I was a kid, I went to mostly Presbyterian church, for some period of time, a United Methodist church. But then once we got married, we started going to Lutheran church. So
right.
That's 26 years ago.
And prior to that, well, your dad is Jewish culturally. Was, right? He's no longer alive. And your mom came up through a very conservative Baptist tradition.
Right. So we didn't, it wasn't a big part of childhood because they were both a little put off by their formative experiences with it.
Yeah, and so I think one of the really beautiful things for Journey for us is that open space, that idea of we're going to explore this together. So that's been something that's been wonderful, I think.
Yeah. And we thought we'd found, and what I think we did find was a place where it's kind of, you really get met where you are on any given day. And the unpredictability of it is actually probably can maybe be a little discombobulating sometimes, but it's also really refreshing because you don't just put your brain on autopilot and kind of fake your way through an hour and 15 minutes. You really kind of have to engage or not. I mean, you can just fake your way through it. I've done it, but you can. There's always something different happening, and there's lots of different expressions that different people are bringing to the table of how they want to communicate about their faith. And so it's interesting, never dull, not for a minute. And the sermons are reasonably short, so it's great.
Happy to serve.
You can cut that part out.
No, but in all seriousness, though, I think that we did come to a point in our family's life together where things just weren't working. Things just weren't working anymore, and we needed to make a change. And I thank God every day that we're in a place that can embrace people, no matter where they are, you know, I love that about this community, in that we're open to people coming with questions. We're open to people remaining in questions and exploring and growing. And for me, one of the things that is most meaningful is the spirit of creativity that is foundational to Journey. For me, that's one of the attributes of God that I find most compelling, and that we live that out in community week after week, day after day, together as a community of faith is dear to me. So that's one of the things that I would say is really important to me. So
Yeah, and you ordained my wife, which was nice. I mean, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't, I mean, but seriously, that couldn't have happened at very many other places where, you know, the tradition dictates a certain path to ordination that you have to follow. And, you know, it's interesting, you know, since we've been at Journey, there's been 2 or 3 people are ordained as well. And I know Christina's working her way toward that as well. And so it's kind of cool. I mean, it's interesting to see, like, there's so many different paths and so many ways for people to, you know, grow and really, you know, live into their faith walk. And there's not just one way to do it. You know, you don't have to go to this school and that school and have this diploma and that diploma and all that. And I think that's the same way that we view that is similar to how I think the view seems to be of just meeting people where they are too. And, you know, we're not reciting lots of creeds and, you know, getting really hung up on exactly what you think. It's really kind of seems like the message is a lot more to do with just, you know, how you relate to other people and, you know, how you show love and how you show up in the world. And that's, to me, a lot more important. It's a lot easier for me to get my head around that than getting tripped up over a particular passage of a creed or a scripture.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Good. Thank you guys so much for being journeyers and for what you bring, even Dan. And I
am what she brings.
You. So y'all be safe, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Love y'all.
All right,
Okay.
take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
From Paul's first letter to the Jesus followers in the Greek city of Corinth. You can easily enough see how this kind of thing works by looking no further than your own body. Your body has many parts, limbs, organs, cells, but no matter how many parts you can name, you're still one body. It's exactly the same with followers of Jesus.
Each of us is now a part of a universal body. The old labels we once used to identify ourselves, labels like Jew or Greek, slave or free, conservative or progressive, straight or gay, religious or irreligious, legal or illegal, are no longer useful when we follow Jesus. I want you to think about how all this makes you more significant, not less. A body isn't just a single part blown up into something huge. It's all the different but connected parts arranged and functioning together.
If Foot said, "I'm not elegant like Hand, embellished with rings, I guess I don't belong to this body," would that make it so? If Ear said, "I'm not beautiful like Eye, limpid and expressive, I don't deserve a place on the head," would you want to remove it from the body?
If the body were all eye, how could it hear? If all one big ear, how could it smell? Right now, we see that as it is, God has carefully placed each part of the body right where they wanted it. An enormous eye or a gigantic hand wouldn't be a body but a monster. What we have is one body with a bunch of different parts, each its proper size and in its proper place. No one part is the most important on its own.
Can you imagine eye telling hand, get lost, I don't need you? Or head telling foot, you're fired, your job has been phased out?
When it's part of your own body you are concerned with, it makes no difference whether the part is visible or clothed, higher or lower. You give it dignity and honor just as it is, without comparisons. If anything, you have more concern for the lower parts than the higher. If you had to choose, wouldn't you prefer good digestion to full-bodied hair? The way God designed our bodies is a model for the understanding of our lives together as a lighthouse. Every one of us keeps the light shining in our own way, working with each other, always together.
Daniel Bergen's house is nestled in a village of 13 tiny homes.
Good, number 11. And we don't need mansions.
In fact, it's her village.
54 persons. I haven't quite counted the beds.
Sybil used to stay here as a baby. Her mum, Sana,
I know it seems like yesterday everything is still raw.
was homeless.
You get stuck in this bureaucratic kind of like loophole.
Danielle took her in.
Okay, darling.
And then found her own house.
It took me a year or 2 years to get back on my feet, and now I'm working part-time, and now I'm actually renting.
Isabel came last year, homeless too.
You got a little bit of milk.
She'd fallen out with family, had nowhere to go.
Basically a second home for me here.
Danielle taught her to cook, gave her a fresh start, and she's now studying towards becoming a social worker.
I'm shocked with where my life's gone, but it's been amazing.
It's not just humans Danielle takes in. Meet Ginger.
She was scatty and wild when she first came. Between the 4 properties, we have at least 7 cats.
Danielle made a village for the homeless and their pets.
We're the only place in New Zealand where you can bring your cat. Okay, come through.
Danielle Bergen
There used to be a wardrobe.
was once homeless herself.
I was in a state of despair. Like when I was driving my car, sometimes I'd be really crying.
Then she opened an op shop.
But what happened was homeless families were outside our shop and we would let them come in at night out of their cars.
She sold the shop and bought a house which slowly became a village.
It's just who my mum is.
Her daughter Rose has always been at her side.
She just gives out so much love.
Rose, who was homeschooled here, is a succession plan.
I'm studying a bachelor's of social work.
Danielle's village is now a charity and she isn't finished. She has a social worker who comes in and
so we're starting our own health clinic.
I make a nice salad.
with that it's time to go. From the house that became a village, founded by one woman.
When I was homeless, I was really lonely. And now I'm not lonely.
Hayden Jones.
So as you see, I'm here by the actual cornerstone of the building where we meet and which we nickname the Lighthouse. And this building was set in place here in 1952 by a group of people who saw that there was a new suburb, a subdivision being built in a dairy farm, a bunch of pastures with no trees. A woman across the street from our building who moved in here in 1952 said that when she stood on her front porch and looked north, all she saw was the plains, nothing. And so there was a man who came down the street once a week or however often in a wagon with saplings, and he would sell them for 50 cents or $1 a piece. And that's where all these trees in the Crestview neighborhood where our lighthouse is came from. This beautiful pecan tree I'm sitting under came from some people saying, you know what, let's build a neighborhood and let's build streets and let's put down plumbing and let's build houses and let's have yards and let's put trees in the yards. All of that happened because some people said, let's do something where families can live and where we can raise our kids and where we can go to work. Our neighbor's husband was an officer in the Austin Police Department, and they raised some sons, and The sons and many other children played up and down this street in the 50s and 60s. The Methodists came and put in a church right over there. And the Baptists came and put in a church right over there. And the Cumberland Presbyterians came and put in a church over there. And so on and so on and so on. Do you know why? Because they believed that they were part of something. They believed that they were part of something important and that they had a job to do in sharing that thing with this group of people who were moving in here and making a life here. That's what they felt their job was. I mean, I know it was sort of franchising, right, for the multinational corporation that they were part of, if you want to put it like that. And I get that. But my favorite part of this is that the building where we meet was people who were part of the Swedish Evangelical Free Church, part of the Reformed Church movement of Northern Europe. And their roots were immigrant Swedish folks who came all the way to Texas and whose church out east of Austin met and spoke in Swedish in their church services until the 1930s. These were Swedish immigrant farmers. And when they found out that this neighborhood was being constructed and built, they said, well, we love our beliefs and we love our church and we want to share it too. And so they came and built this building. And it's a running joke, I'm not sure that it's not true, that they built it themselves. You know, farmers are good at building barns and houses and walls. And this building, the walls, the original walls of it inside are cinder block and they are impenetrable. This thing will still be here after the apocalypse. They said our faith and our belief system is important, and so we're going to go and establish a footprint. We're going to go buy 3 lots in that new neighborhood, and we're going to save our money, and we're going to help each other, and we're going to show up, and we're going to build a building and have a church and welcome people and share our faith. I love this. This building, we set it here in 1952. Paul is writing letters to another church, another group of people following Jesus in the Greek city of Corinth. And they are vibrant, and they are smart, and they are very diverse, like Journey. And they're interested in theological reflection, and they give to the poor, but they have been having an argument. And the argument is, who is more expressive of the gifts of God? Whose talents are better? Whose gifts are more important to following Jesus and what God is doing? And they, push each other around a little bit, are in competition with each other. And Paul, the church planter, because that's really who Paul was, right? He's a church planter. He's somebody who has this belief and he wants to go like the groups of people who built these churches in this neighborhood, comes and says, I have a belief and I want to share it with people and I think it's important and I want for people to build something good and to share it with other people. So he writes some letters, and one of his letters says, hey, concerning these spiritual gifts that you guys keep arguing about, do you not know that everybody's gift is important? I mean, do you not get that? You think that the people who are the teachers or the preachers up front are the most important? Now, I realize that Christians and everybody else have always said, well, the guy or the gal up front is the most important one. This is crap, I promise you. Or at least to say that the guy or the gal up front is more spiritual or more spiritually important is absolute manure. We're just like everybody else, except that we have the unique, how you doing? Bless your heart. We have the unique gift, responsibility of theoretically speaking for God, or at least running the local franchise. Either way, it's sticky and nothing to be admired necessarily or fawned over. Some people were thinking that their gifts of giving money were more important, and some people were thinking that their gifts of speaking deep things that God was telling them were more important, which meant that other people were probably struggling with and worrying about whether their gifts were less important. Throughout our 16-plus year history, this faith community has been one in which people just showed up and said, "What can I do? I believe in this. I'm not sure what I believe, but I believe in this." And so, from the beginning until now, and on and on and on, somebody shows up and sweeps the floor, and somebody else shows up and says, "Well, I could teach a class, I guess." It's hilarious at Journey where almost always somebody says, "I could teach a class. I don't know what I'm doing." Good. Somebody makes slides for worship, and somebody else sets up chairs, and a group of people on the fly take down the chairs and stack them, and somebody says, "Well, I know how to patch a hole in the cinder block wall and the plaster and the paint. I'll show up on Tuesday and do that." And somebody else gets a group of people together to talk about how to help our homeless brothers and sisters, or how to help an orphanage in India, or how to help someone who is in need in our community here in Austin. Some other people show up and say, "I have donuts." And then somebody else says, "I'll weed the labyrinth." And then somebody else says, "I can give money." Obviously, Rick doesn't know how much money anybody gives, so that doesn't make me particularly special. There's no building named after me. In which case, I'm just doing it because I feel led to do it inside. Somebody says, "I will play with the kids," and somebody says, "I will rock the babies," and somebody says, do you need for me to help figure out the insurance for the building? I can do that. I'm not super spiritual. And somebody else says, "I will help make administrative decisions," and somebody else says, "I'll check on the woman who's sick and see if she needs food or see if she needs somebody to visit." Somebody else says, "I can sing," and somebody else says, "I'll read a poem." Do you understand that that's how this works? And so when Paul says the body has many parts, and no part is more important or less important than any other part of the body, especially the parts that you kind of ignore. You know, you stub your toe, everything stops. Your gifts matter, no matter whether you think your gifts are important or not. We are all keepers of this lighthouse. All of us, paid or unpaid, whatever gifts we are giving. Actually, whatever gifts we are given to give, we are all lighthouse keepers together. We are all continuing to build this thing for God, for the world. It's love. Love God, love people, serve, bring spirit, bring compassion, work for justice. Paul says, and here's the thing, this is not just so that you will get over whether your gifts are important or not important. You are part of something bigger than yourself. Being a part of a body is being part of what he calls Christ's body, which is a universal body, which is a body outside time and space. It's a body that is doing something bigger than me or bigger than you. And by the way, all those things that I just listed may be things that you're doing in the rest of the world as well. It may be that you're saying, even or especially during a pandemic, even or especially during a recession, even or especially during racial unrest and cultural reform around issues of race and sexism and ageism and so on and so on. Whatever it is that you can bring that's a gift matters. It matters. Your gift is part of something larger than yourself. A lighthouse requires a lighthouse keeper and lighthouse maintainers, and it requires lights, and it requires energy, and it requires food delivered, and all of those things matter. Your gifts matter because you're part of something larger than yourself. Here's the thing, I forget sometimes that I'm part of something larger than myself because I get tired or I get frustrated, I get irritated, discouraged. I was telling somebody this week, they were asking, how's it going at work? This is not a journey or somebody far, far away. And I said, I hope it's okay. Journeyers like being together and we're not meeting in person and it feels really weird. And this person said, don't you think that just knowing that Journey is doing its work in some way or other, even if it's just an hour-long broadcast during the week and updates to Facebook, don't you think that that helps people? Don't you think that that matters? And that helped. That helped. Paul is saying that we are part of something bigger than ourselves, and therefore whatever gift we bring is important. We forget that, you know? This faith community exists because of people who are here or have been here or will be here who said, I have a gift to give. And maybe their gift is simply to be present and listen and contribute. Or maybe their gift is simply to say hello to somebody when they walk in, or to say to somebody they don't recognize, hi, I don't know you. How did you find out about Journey? The person who carries the urn of coffee to where the coffee cups are is as important as me or anybody else who speaks up front. More important. I mean, God, the coffee is more important. The person who says, I'll take out the trash is as important as or more important than anybody up front or anybody who's doing something that everybody can see. That's what it means to be part of something bigger than ourselves and something that matters. You matter. Your gifts matter, even when we are not together. And part of that is our fundraiser, where everybody's giving money and we're reaching a goal and we're ensuring with God that we'll have enough money until we get back together again. Here's the thing. Not only are we all part of something bigger than ourselves, just as they were working together to create something bigger than themselves that would live on past them. By the way, the Swedish Evangelical Free Church that met here doesn't meet here anymore. It's somewhere else. It morphed into something else. And then another church came here, and it was here for a while. And then a different kind of church came here, and it was here for a while. And for a while it was a Montessori school, and that Bible church that had been here before is now in another part of Austin. And the church that we bought this property from, right when we Googled and said churches for sale in Austin 5+ years ago, was just about to have their celebration of completion. They had been a church plant from a group in Houston, and they had come as missionaries and had worked in campus ministry, and then they had come out to this suburb, this neighborhood. And then they said, you know what? I can't remember how long they had been doing their work, a decade. They said, you know what? We're done. We did what we came to do. See, all of these things that have happened in this building and through this building are not just the people who showed up and gave their gifts. They're also God. And every Sunday when we get together again, and every time we have for 16 years, God is present and at work. And that's part of what Paul means when he says the body of Christ, the body of something bigger than the natural, supernatural, something that exists much bigger than we are. Christina's and my dog Chief died this last Sunday. It was very sudden. We didn't know he was sick. He didn't show any signs of being sick. You know, dogs do that sometimes. And then he didn't want to eat, and then his foot didn't work, and then he couldn't stand up on his back feet. In the 2 years that Christina and I had become friends and started dating, I had fallen deeply in love with this dog, Chief, and he had broken me open. he had taught me so many things about love, about listening, about play. When Chief died, I knew that he had gone to heaven, and I know that whole thing about all dogs go to heaven, blah, blah, blah. No, I didn't mean that in a sort of a sentimental way. When he was diagnosed as having stage 5 canine lymphoma, and it was clear we need to put this dog to sleep. He is not going to get better. And he wouldn't want to be limping around. And he doesn't want brain surgery. And we didn't want that for him. What I felt deeply was that this dog was part of something bigger than me, or bigger than me and Christina. This dog had come from heaven. And this dog had done his work. And it reminded me that my life is part of something bigger than just myself and my agenda and my to-do list and my memories and my fears and my plans. God was at work in the body of Chief. God is at work in your body. God is at work in the world. And God is looking for people who will say, I have gifts and I will give them. In our case, lighthouse keepers. You got this. You are so beautiful. Your gifts matter. Even in the vacuum of wondering, as I was just talking about myself, does this even make any difference? Is it helping? It helps. It matters. You matter. You are part of something so much bigger than yourself. And God is all around in this beautiful pecan tree, in this building, in Chief, in you. Jesus thought he was part of something bigger than himself. He thought he was in service to something that God was doing in the world. He was here to give hope and to reframe how people thought about themselves and God, to free people from an oppressive empire and an oppressive religious system. Jesus was willing to give his life and to end his life as a way of working to give people hope and freedom. When he got his friends together for a Last Supper with them, he had the elements of their traditional meal of celebration of God getting the people of Israel through the desert after their enslavement in Egypt for 400 years. And he said, I know that the bread represents God giving us food, and I know that the wine represents God giving us hope in the promised land and joy and water and giving us life. Blood in Jewish theology, ancient Jewish theology, blood meant life. But he says, I want you to think about me and me being with you now. And so he did what the host does, which is that he began to tear the bread into pieces and he shared it with the people at the dinner. And he said, this is not only what God has done in the past, this is what God is doing now and what God is going to do through you, because he says, I want you to remember. And I know that religiously what we think about is Jesus saying, the church tells us, I want you to remember what I've done for you and focus this on me. Jesus never focuses on himself, especially in the earliest Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. What he wants is for people to focus on what they are going to do for him, with him, for God. So he breaks the bread and he says, this is my body and I give it to you and I want it to fill you and I want you to think about what I've done and I want you to be part of it. Just like Paul says that we are part of the body of the universal Christ. He says the cup that has the blessing in it, I want you to think of it not just as something that God has done in the past or that God is promising for some mystical future. This is blood that gives me life. This is blood that gives you life. I want you to take it into yourselves. I want you to absorb life, and then I want it to flow through you. It is sort of magical, isn't it? It's amazing that Jesus said this a couple of thousand years ago, and we're still doing it. As lighthouse keepers, you are carriers of life. You are carriers of the body, embodiments of the body of the universal Christ, of what God is doing. So, with whatever bread or food you have, take a bite. Crackers, tortillas, hot dog buns, fruit, whatever. Take a bite and think about how you are part of the body of what God is doing, and it's embodied in you. Christ's body broken for you and given to you so that you can be part of the body of what God is doing in the world. Whatever juice or drink or soft drink or whatever you have, take a sip from it. And think about God's life, love, hope, joy, power flowing into you. We remember and we remember into the members, the parts of the body that we are in service to, bigger than ourselves. When we love, when we are kind, when we're courageous. As we say here at Journey, when we are compassionate, when we work for justice, when we walk humbly in spirit, when we love God and love the world. So let's do that. As you leave this gathering and you go out into the world in whatever way you can, including with your mask, which is here on the floor here in the living room, which when I leave this building I will put on as an act of love for other people, love for God's creation. As you go out into the world in whatever way you can, in your body or virtually or whatever else, think about what you embody and what you carry. Have courage, be kind, be willing to be an embodiment. Be a keeper of the lighthouse that you are a part of. We love you. We hope to see you soon.